These roles are not interchangeable. They are very specific, different roles within a business. And usually each one is needed at a different time, at a different stage of business, depending on your personal needs, your, like I said, stage of business. So I wanted to make sure that everyone understood when you need each one. And it's never usually just one or the other. Welcome to the Process to Profit podcast, where I dig into the key strategies that build successful service-based businesses. Whether you're just starting out or you're looking to scale, I'll share practical techniques to help you overcome overwhelm, boost your income, and fall in love with your business again. Let's get your business working for you. Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between an OBM, or an online business manager, an EA or executive assistant, and a VA or virtual assistant, because I find a lot of entrepreneurs get a lot of these terms confused. So we're going to talk through the difference between all of those today and what each one can help you with and what you should be looking for when you hire each of these roles. So let's get started. First, let's clarify a little bit about what might make you seek out one of these roles. The first thing is going to be overwhelm. And I know we talk a lot about overwhelm on this podcast because there's a lot of overwhelm for entrepreneurs. But specifically, this overwhelm is the overwhelming amount of work that you have to do, the overwhelming amount of things demanding your attention, your time, your mental energy. And it can be really draining as an entrepreneur to have all of these things pulling you in all of these different directions, and not really have the mental space or the time to think more strategically, to work more on your business instead of in your business. And all you really want is to be able to take a step back and plan and think and create a vision, but you're stuck posting to social media, you're stuck responding to emails or managing your calendar or booking travel for yourself. And these are all things that these roles can actually take off your plate for you so that you can then focus on that bigger picture, the vision, what are sort of the bigger moves that you want to be making in your business. You also, like I said, might be struggling with your email, your calendar management, and it might be surprising that even a solopreneur can hire someone to help with your email and your calendar management, and what a big difference it can make in your business and how you show up for your business and how you feel during the day when you're not managing all of these things yourself and you're passing it off to someone to filter out so that you don't even have to think about it. You also might be constantly feeling like you're behind, like you can't keep up with your client work or with all of the other things that are involved in running your business. Or you might even be growing and having a team and not realizing that when you grow and have a team, now you have to manage the team and you have to manage the projects that the team's working on and you have to follow up with them and you have to make sure that they're doing what they said they're going to do. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and especially people who start out as solopreneurs, as you all probably did, really struggle with this role because we started our businesses because we really love helping people and we love the work that we do. Maybe you're a health coach and you really like helping people with their nutrition. Maybe you are a sales and marketing coach and you like helping people with their marketing messaging, but you're not trained to be a leader. You've never maybe been in a leadership role before. Even if you worked in corporate, maybe you were never a manager or in a leader role. And now suddenly you have all of these people looking to you and trying to ask you what they should be focusing on, how they should be working, checking in with you, and you have to keep following up with them. And it can get really overwhelming. So let's talk through how these roles can help with all of these things. Let's start by talking about the roles and responsibilities for each of these roles and what signs you might need this particular role. So the first one we're going to talk about is a virtual assistant or a VA. And a VA is a remote professional who provides administrative, technical, or creative assistance to clients, usually from some other part of the world or country. And a virtual assistant can vary widely in their expertise and their price, depending on what it is that you're looking for. Their primary responsibilities may include things like managing email and calendars at a very high level, and what I mean by that is very simple management of email and calendars, handling basic customer service requests, data entry, and maybe basic bookkeeping depending on the VA. Make sure that they do have some sort of training in that. They may be managing your social media. They probably are not specialized enough to do the strategy of your social media, but they could potentially do the execution of the strategy for your social media. They might be able to make travel arrangements for you, again, depending on the skills of the VA, and then other general administrative tasks. And what I want to make clear here is they're probably doing one set of these things. They're not doing all of these things. So someone who specializes in bookkeeping is probably not also going to be managing your calendar and your email. You really want a specific person for a specific task because they're usually pretty highly specialized in the work that they're doing. So some signs that you might want to consider hiring a VA. You're spending too much time on routine, repetitive tasks that could be easily handed off to someone else. Your inbox is maybe overwhelming and unmanageable. You're missing out on deadlines and assignments. Things are sort of falling through the cracks with your clients or with potential collaborations or networking opportunities. You find yourself doing a lot of repetitive administrative tasks that could be easily handed off to someone else because they don't require your strategic expertise. Or you're spending long hours but not making any progress on your important projects. Some of the benefits of hiring a VA are they're usually pretty cost effective depending on what you need them for and what they specialize in, compared to something like an executive assistant or an OBM. It helps free up your time for more core business activities to get some of these administrative things off your plate. It will help increase the overall productivity of you and your business. It allows you to access some specialized skills without committing to hiring on a full-time employee. And it can help you maintain or create a work-life balance by taking over some of those more time-consuming tasks that, again, don't require your expertise. Some potential drawbacks for hiring a VA could be that they may require some more time. Some potential drawbacks for hiring a VA are that they may require time for training and onboarding. All of these roles are going to require some sort of training and onboarding, but usually a VA, or I shouldn't say usually, oftentimes a VA is less experienced, so they might need a little bit more hand-holding in the beginning before they can really get a grasp on their job. If they have a lot of clients, they may have some limited availability. That's something you'll have to talk to them about when you hire them. They may not have in-depth knowledge of your specific business or your specific niche or customer. And so it might require a little bit more explanation from you, and some things that you might assume would not be something that they would assume necessarily. For example, I have a leads generation VA that works for me, and I want him to find people that I can collaborate with and people that I can work with. And he was finding a lot of people in other time zones that don't really jive with mine, places like Australia, and I'm in central US. And I just told him that people needed to be English speaking. I didn't tell him that anything about time zones because I didn't even think of that. But he was sending me people from places like Japan and Australia, and they were English speaking, but the time zones really would not have worked out between us. So it was just something that I assumed but didn't articulate, and lesson learned, I should say, every single requirement that I can think of. So, but he was very open to the feedback, so it worked out fine. But things like that, with a VA, they may not be thinking as in-depth about those things as you are. And that brings me to my next point, where a VA may need a little bit more instruction on their tasks and their management and things like that. They may need a little bit more of that than some of these other roles. And I do want to note that I am actually starting a whole series on finding, hiring, training your VA, all in across 6 or 7 episodes. And those are going to start next week. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe so you get notified whenever one of those new episodes drops. It's going to have a specialized workbook and everything to go with it so that you are totally prepared and ready for finding and hiring your next VA. So make sure you tune in for that series. So the next role we're going to talk about is an OBM, or an online business manager. Sometimes it's called a digital business manager. Just depends on what that person likes to call themselves. They're pretty much the same thing. So an OBM is a little bit more high level than a VA. They're going to have more management responsibilities, a little bit more involved in projects, and not so much task oriented. They do what's on the tin, what it says on the tin. They manage your online business operations. Their primary responsibilities often include things like project management and overseeing team members, implementing business systems and processes, managing launches and marketing campaigns, tracking and analyzing business metrics, vendor management, strategic planning, and execution, again, depending on the OBM or DBM. And they're much more of a manager type person. They're the person that sort of organizes the rest of the team, keeps track of all the metrics. things like that, so that you don't have to be so in the weeds of the day-to-day running of your business. And a lot of OBMs will offer different size packages depending on how big your business is and how much time you actually need from them. A lot of them will do part-time, like you don't have to hire an OBM for 40 hours a week because a lot of our online business owners do not need 40 hours of OBM work. But, so they'll have multiple clients, but what they'll do is they'll usually have a package that includes specific project management tasks or overseeing, or depending on how many, other contractors you have, that could be a different package. It just depends on sort of how they package their services. But you can hire a part-time OBM. So don't think because they're managing your business that they have to be a full-time person working with your business. They can be part-time. A lot of them, I would say most of them, offer part-time options. So some signs that you might need to hire an OBM in your business. Your business is growing, but you're sort of struggling to keep up with operations. You might have a lot of different VAs that you're working with, or a lot of different other vendors that you're working with, things like social media and content creation and marketing. You have all these different people kind of working together, and an OBM can help them all come together to work through the same plan so that they're not sort of off doing their own thing, and then you have to keep track of them all. That's what the OBM is for. You might find that you're spending more time managing your team than you are actually spending with your clients. Your systems and processes are non-existent or they're not efficient. An OBM can help you implement a lot of the systems and processes because they're a little bit more hands-on. Or you might need someone to actually implement your vision and manage projects. So you have this big vision, but you don't really know how to achieve it. An OBM can come in and be more in the weeds with you and help you and your team actually execute your vision. And another sign is that you're ready to scale, but you don't have the bandwidth to actually manage growth in your business. You know that you're maxed out. You know that you cannot spend any more time with your clients or outside of working with your clients, but you want to get bigger. So an OBM can come in and help you figure out how do you actually achieve that without working more hours in a day. Some benefits of hiring an OBM or an online business manager are that it allows you as the business owner to focus on the high-level strategies, similar to a VA, but taking on even more tasks. They really take on sort of the day-to-day running of your business so that you can focus on that big picture strategy. They'll help you improve the overall efficiency and productivity of your business. They'll provide a strategic partner in your business operations because they're going to be experienced with running probably several businesses, so they can, give you advice and tell you how other people have done it and maybe help you figure out some of those things. They'll help you scale your business more effectively and in a way that you can actually maintain and not burn out and not grow too fast or too much or too quickly so that you can't handle it. They will make sure that you grow in a way that actually is easy for you to maintain. They will bring professional management skills to the business. So like we talked about at the beginning, as a business owner, you probably or may not have leadership and management experience. So by bringing in an OBM, they're bringing those skills to the team so that you don't have to have them, and they will take on the management of the people that you're working with. Even if it's a bunch of different contractors and not actual employees, they can take over managing all of them. And finally, they can actually coordinate all of the other contractors that you're working with. So if you have a couple of different VAs and then a social media person and, like I said, a marketing person or a customer service person, they can take over managing that whole team so that you don't have to be bothered with any of it. You can choose to be as involved or as step back as you want to be. Some potential drawbacks or challenges to hiring an OBM: they're definitely going to cost more than a VA, especially the good ones. But again, like I said, they usually have packages depending on how big your business is, how much time you need from them, that will make it a little bit more affordable so that you're not paying for 40 hours a week when you don't need 40 hours a week. It does require your business to be a little bit more complex in order to be cost effective. So if you're just a solopreneur and you don't really have any other contractors that you're working with, you probably don't need an OBM yet, depending on what kind of services they offer. So an OBM is only really cost effective if you're managing a team, you have a couple of different contractors or even employees that you're working with, and those are the things that they're taking over for you. It could lead to reduced control over your day-to-day operations in your business. This really depends on how you work with your OBM and how involved you want to be and what their expectations are for your involvement in your business. So you really want to be clear with your OBM about what you want to be informed of, what you want to know about your business ongoing, what information you want to still keep track of, even though you're not involved in that day-to-day quite so much. It also could be a challenge to find the right fit in terms of your personality and your management style and your business, the type of business that you have. Finding the right OBM can be a little bit challenging because, there's a ton of them out there, but you might have to talk to a lot of them before you find someone that really clicks with you. And it's really important that they do. It's important that you don't just take the first person that you talk to. You really want to make sure that you are interviewing, at least a couple of OBMs to see all of the different ways that they work, all the different management styles that they have, and find one that really fits you, your business, your personality, and how you want your business to run. And then finally, another potential pain point for working with an OBM is there could be some confusion on the part of the rest of the team as to what their role is. Are they taking over for the owner? Who's making decisions? What's really the difference between the OBM and the business owner? So you want to be really clear with your team, with your OBM, and with yourself around what this role actually means, what it will entail in your business, what kind of decision-making ability they have in your business, all of those things to make sure that everyone is on the same page around what this OBM role means in your business. So the last role we're going to talk about is the executive assistant or the EA. And this role doesn't get talked about as much in the online sphere because most people just use a VA for a lot of these responsibilities. But you may be able to benefit from an EA if you have a really complex business, if you're, traveling a lot, if you're maybe doing a lot of speaking engagements that require travel, if you're an author and you have a lot of things going on, a lot of, things that you have to keep track of. And an EA is a high-level assistant who provides comprehensive support, usually to executives or business owners. And their primary responsibilities include managing complex schedules and communications, preparing reports and presentations, attending meetings and taking notes possibly, handling confidential information, and acting as a liaison potentially between executives or clients, and then managing personal tasks for the business owner. They are really the person who kind of takes over a lot more of your personal life, much more so than usually a VA will. And the term VA is pretty fluid, so they could do a lot of these things potentially, but usually an EA is going to be much more experienced and much more able to take on those complex tasks, but probably also much more expensive because of their experience and their skills. So some signs that you need an executive assistant as opposed to a VA: you're at a high level of business, you're probably making a lot of money, and you really need that dedicated, comprehensive support. You just need someone that you can just ask to do something and it'll get done, and you don't have to think about it too much, depending on what the task is. You're spending too much time on that administrative tasks instead of high-level strategy, just like those other roles. You need someone to manage complex schedules and communications if you have a big team, if you have investors, if you have, a lot of different companies that you're working with or clients. An EA might be a good consideration for you. You require a high level of confidentiality and trust. An EA is usually much more experienced in working with things like confidential information and handling all of your personal information. So there's someone that's potentially a lot more trustworthy. And you might need an executive assistant if you're looking for someone who can, like I said, be that right hand who can potentially anticipate your needs and, has an instinct for what it is that you need and how they can help you. Some of the benefits of hiring an EA as opposed to like a VA or an OBM is they're usually highly experienced, but also highly specialized. It allows you to focus on that high-level, strategic, value-add activities in your business so that you don't have to think about all of the little things like making sure your HelloFresh is delivered or ordering presents for your kids for their birthday. An EA can actually take on a lot of these more personal tasks that you wouldn't normally give to someone like a virtual assistant, and definitely not an OBM. Some potential drawbacks or challenges with hiring an EA is that they're almost certainly going to be more expensive than a virtual assistant, and they are probably going to be more expensive than an OBM, again, depending on their roles and responsibilities and the expectations around both roles. And they have different roles, the OBM and the EA, which we're going to talk about in a second. It can be really hard to find someone that you trust with your confidential information like you do with an EA. It may lead to over-reliance on the EA, so it can be difficult to then function without them if they take a vacation or if you, part ways and then you have to hire a replacement. It can be really hard to sort of function without them once you're used to having them around. And there's also a potential for the role to be pretty ambiguous, which can be really challenging. What's the line between what they're supposed to be working on, what the expectations are, and sort of what's beyond the scope of their work. So making sure that that is super clear is going to be really important if you hire an EA. And then an EA actually might require more direct communication and direction because of the high level of the work that they're doing. And because of the personal nature of the work that they're doing. You probably don't have SOPs for things like ordering your kid's birthday present. So you're going to have to direct them more onto what it is that your expectations are, what your kid likes, what they need to be doing, all of those things. So they may require more direction, especially in the beginning, than a VA or an OBM whose roles are a little bit easier to define with things like SOPs. So let's talk a little bit more in depth about the differences between these three roles. First, the scope of responsibility between the three. A VA handles specific, often routine tasks. They work on their assigned duties and nothing else. They're usually not someone who goes out and finds more work for themselves to do. They're heads down working on the thing that they are assigned. And some of them are a little bit more of a go-getter and they might go do that, but that's not generally the expectation of a VA. Whereas an OBM manages overall business operations. They have the decision-making authority. They are directing the work that other people are doing. And then an EA provides support directly to the business owner, and they may even act as a gatekeeper or a representative of that person. They're probably, very self-driven. They're figuring out what it is that they're supposed to be doing, but they're not directing other people necessarily. Let's talk about each role's different involvement in strategy in your business. A VA is generally not going to be qualified to comment on the strategy of your business. They may have experience, they may have ideas that they can suggest, but generally they're not going to be that person making any strategic decisions or suggestions within their business. They are a task doer, usually. An OBM, on the other hand, will contribute to and implement your business strategy. They probably have experience in other businesses, they can give you advice, and then they'll execute whatever it is that you both decide is the strategy of your business. And then an EA generally isn't involved in strategic decisions. They're much more of a personal assistant and personal support for the business owner, and they're not really involved in sort of the strategic decisions of the business itself. In terms of team management, the VA will almost certainly not have any team management responsibilities. The role of the OBM is actually team management, so they will have a lot of team management responsibilities. And the EA is sort of in the middle. They won't have team management responsibilities, but they may direct team members if it comes directly from the business owner. And so they may have input on what the team is working on, but it's not really part of their job usually to have team management. The different requirements of business knowledge, the VA needs a basic understanding of business, but they usually can be taught sort of the necessary information for them to actually, do their tasks. They don't need an in-depth understanding of your business. Usually, again, it depends on the role. The role of the VA is so varied and used in so many different ways. And again, I'm going to have a whole series on finding, hiring, training your VA starting next week. So make sure you are subscribed so you catch all of those episodes. An OBM does require a comprehensive understanding of your business, your model, your operations, to make sure that they are making decisions in line with what you want and how your business should be run. And then an EA doesn't necessarily need as in-depth of an understanding. Depending on how you decide their role is going to work, they may need comprehensive understanding if they're going to be managing things like your inbox and your calendar, but if they're more of a personal executive assistant and less of a business one, then it's less important for them to understand how your business works. And then finally, each role has a different level of autonomy in your business. A VA is going to need direct supervision and direction of the tasks that they're focusing on. An OBM shouldn't need direct supervision. They should be able to work autonomously, and they should be able to make operational decisions in your place, and they shouldn't need to have, you watching over their shoulder to make sure that they're doing their job and doing it well. And then the EA works independently because they are good at their jobs and they're very experienced, but they may need some direction on what it is that you want them focusing on. But they shouldn't need you looking over their shoulder and directing them specifically in how to do their tasks and things like that. So now that you understand all these different roles, How do you decide which one is right for you and your business? First, I want you to consider what stage your business is in. If you're just starting your business, if it's really new, you're kind of in the startup phase, then a VA is probably the best first hire that you can make because they can be someone that can take some of those administrative things off your plate, take off some of those repetitive tasks, and they're going to be a good first step for you for being able to take yourself out of the day-to-day of your business. If you're more in that growth stage where you maybe have a couple of VAs already or a couple of different contractors that you're working with, then an OBM is going to be the next uh, then an OBM is going to be the right choice for you probably because you're going to need someone as that sort of middle, I hate to use the term middle management, but that middle layer between you and everyone that works for you so that they are more in the weeds, running the business day to day so that you don't have to be. If your business is much more established, you're really getting ready to scale, you probably already have an OBM and a VA. So an EA is probably the next logical step for you so that you can get more personalized help and support in your role as a business owner and potentially in your personal life and not as much or in addition to on the business side. The next step you want to do is assess your specific needs. If you need help with specific tasks and administrative things and just getting those done and your business is on the smaller side, then a VA is going to be the right step for you. If you need help with overall strategy, you need help with processes and systems and team management, then an OBM will be the right step. And if you require someone to manage your schedule, your communications, and sort of act as your right hand, then an executive assistant will be the right step for you. You also want to evaluate your budget. A VA is going to be the most cost-effective option of these three. And, they can range in price from like $6 an hour if you get them overseas from the Philippines, all the way up to, $50, $60, $75 an hour if they're super specialized and experienced in their specific role, their specific tasks that they do. So you want to consider the tasks that you need done and your budget. An OBM is typically more expensive than a VA because they have more skills and more management skills, more project management skills, and they can provide significant value in terms of improved operations, growth, strategy, those types of things. And then an EA, especially those with extensive experience, often have the highest rates because they are invaluable to business owners who need comprehensive, high-level support across a broad range of activities. And then finally, think about your growth plans. Do you want your business to grow? Do you want it to scale? If so, an OBM is probably going to be the right choice because they are, depending on the other factors that we talked about, but they're going to be best equipped to help you build and scale your business quickly because they're experienced doing that. They can take a lot of those more in the weeds things away from you, managing team members and things like that. And so if you want to grow rapidly and scale, then an OBM would be a good choice for that. So I hope that this overview has helped you understand sort of the difference between all of those roles and when you might need each individual one. I wanted to help people understand that these roles are not interchangeable. They are very specific, different roles within a business. And usually each one is needed at a different time at a different stage of business, depending on your personal needs, your, like I said, stage of business. So I wanted to make sure that everyone understood when you need each one. And it's never usually just one or the other. Unless you're in the very beginning stages of your business, then it would probably just be a VA. But as you get bigger, you could add to it, add to your team, have a VA, and then also add in an OBM, and then also add in potentially an executive assistant. So you don't have to choose between all of them. If you're a bigger business, it's about choosing the right one for the right task that you need. And then just as a reminder, I'm going to be starting my VA series next week about finding and managing and hiring your first VA. Probably could apply to OBMs and EAs too, because we'll be talking about how you actually find them and then interview them and then train them for their role. So definitely make sure you subscribe so you can check that out. And if you want to get a head start on the VA series, then I highly recommend you go to laurenglynn.com/resources and check out my 7 days to streamline your business. And the reason that I recommend that specifically is because the first activity in that is listing out all of the tasks in your business. And that's the first step that we're going to do as part of our VA hiring series, because you have to understand what the work is in your business in order to be able to know what you can hand off to a VA. So laurenglynn.com/resources. I will put the link in the description and in the podcast notes. 7 days to streamline your business. and get started sort of listing out the tasks in your business so that you know and have an idea of what you could potentially hand off to a VA. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, your systems are the backbone of your business. I'm Lauren Glynn, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.